Storms don't sink boats. Decisions do. By the time waves break over the deck, the outcome is usually already set. What matters most happened quietly, hours or days earlier. Ignored forecasts, a cluttered deck. One more hour chasing miles. Most losses start with comfort and end with regret. The real risk is sitting right here, waiting for you to notice how it crept aboard. Storms don't sink boats. Decisions do. By the time waves are breaking over the deck, the outcome is usually already set. What mattered happened quietly hours or days earlier. Every sailor knows the story that the storm came out of nowhere, that the forecast missed it, that there was no time to react. The data tells a different story. NOAA issues detailed forecasts with 24 to 48 hours of lead time for most significant weather events. Since 2010, digital grid files and real-time weather updates have been standard on nearly every offshore boat. The information is there, waiting to be checked. Ignored only by choice. U.S. Coast Guard reports show that in over 70% of sailboat accidents, the first mistake was not a missed squall line. The first mistake was a skipper deciding the forecast was good enough, or that warnings did not apply this time. SailNet and Cruisers Forum are full of stories blaming freak storms. When you match those posts to archived forecasts, the so-called surprise was predicted a day before. Storms do not arrive out of nowhere. They build hour by hour on screens and on barometers. The real surprise is how often warnings go unread or dismissed. Each hour you wait, another option disappears. The forecast is not just data. It is a list of chances to act. Ignore it, and the outcome is set long before the first gust. Grid screenshots never lie. They are silent witnesses to the moment a sailor decided comfort was safer than caution. By the time the sky turns black, the evidence is already logged, time-stamped, and archived. The storm only finishes what inattention started. A cluttered cockpit is not just untidy, it is a mechanical hazard waiting to escalate. In 2019, a Monterey Bay crew found this out the hard way. Lines and gear, justified as temporary, blocked access to the primary winches. When the wind built past 20 knots, a routine reefing maneuver turned into a scramble. Crew members tripped over fuel cans and tangled sheets. The delay was 45 seconds, measured by the incident report. That is all it took for the traveler to overload, and for the boat to jibe uncontrolled. Every item left loose on deck adds seconds to any urgent action. In moderate conditions, those seconds are just inconvenient. In rising wind, they become the gap between a clean reef and a jammed winch. U.S. Sailing's review of the Monterey case found that clutter alone accounted for a 30 to 60 second delay in reefing. That is not speculation. It is stopwatch data from the crew's own timeline. Winches jammed by stray lines do not care about your intentions. Gear shifted by a single wave can block critical controls. When the load spikes, the hardware is forced to absorb the difference. The failure mode is simple. Clutter slows the crew. Delay increases load. The weakest link gives way first. The storm does not punish the mess. It exposes it. By the time the wind is howling, the chance to clear the cockpit is gone. Every shortcut taken at the dock is paid back with interest when it matters most. This is not about perfection. It is about refusing to lock yourself into a failure you cannot undo at sea. Full canvas in rising wind is not a show of skill. It is a mechanical bet against physics. And the odds are terrible. Most furlers on production boats are rated for winds up to 25 or 30 knots. That is printed in the manual, stamped on the hardware, and confirmed by every rigger who has seen a foil twist under load. Push a Genoa to its limit in 28 knots, and the torque on the furler doubles. The forestay stretches, the bearing sees, and the next pull on the line is a gamble. A rigger with 20 years on the docks explains it bluntly. You want a furler to last. Reef at 20 knots. After that, you are just adding stress the gear was never built to take. The numbers back him up. Drop sail area by half, and sheet loads fall by nearly 50%. That is not a guess. It is basic aerodynamics. Less canvas means less force on every fitting, every shroud, every hand holding a winch handle. The 2015 helmsman case proves the point. The skipper carried full headsail to make time through a squall that had been forecast 12 hours earlier. When the wind hit 40 knots, the furler jammed, the shroud snapped. The boat went down, not because of a freak gust, but because the decision to delay reefing locked in a load the rig could not absorb. Pride keeps the sail up. Physics halves the fight if you reef first. Every minute spent debating is another minute for fatigue to creep in, setting up the next failure. The work is always easier before the wind demands it. Fatigue does not announce itself with warning lights or alarms. It builds quietly, hour by hour, as the mind slows and small errors pile up. After 12 hours awake, reaction times drop by 25%. That is not a guess. It is measured in accident investigations and confirmed in every serious delivery log. When a crew is tired, the brain misses details it would spot fresh. Weather updates go unread. Wind shifts slip by unnoticed. The autopilot stays on longer, masking the slow drift into danger. In 2022, a delivery crew on a Newport to Bermuda run nearly lost their boat. The watch schedule slipped as the night wore on. Handovers got shorter. No one double-checked the 2 a.m. forecast. When the wind veered 30 degrees, no one adjusted course or sail. By the time the squall hit, the crew was slow to reef, slow to respond, and nearly out of options. The incident report notes, fatigue delayed every action by at least 30 seconds. On a boat moving at 7 knots, that is nearly 100 yards traveled before a hand even touches a line. Fatigue does not feel dangerous in the moment. It feels like routine, until the logbook reveals missed warnings and lost windows. The storm does not cause exhaustion. It exposes it. A tired crew normalizes shortcuts, skips checks, and locks in bad decisions. The most expensive failures begin with a simple thought: we are fine, we can push a little longer. By then, the gap between what could have been done and what is still possible has already started to close. Every option on a passage plan has a shelf life. Leave the dock an hour late, and the safest harbor is already out of reach before sunset. Each hour spent debating the forecast or squeezing in last-minute errands quietly erases choices from the chart. Insurers record these losses with clinical precision. 65% of total loss claims follow a timeline where human decisions, not weather, removed the last safe alternative. The logic is simple and unforgiving. Wait to see if the squall passes and the window to divert closes. Tell yourself just one more hour, and the route home vanishes behind a wall of wind. The math is visible on every timeline graphic and every archived GPS track. By the time the first mechanical failure appears, the outcome is no longer in question. The boat is committed, not by the storm, but by the slow erosion of options, hour by hour, unchecked and irreversible. A chain plate doesn't fail because the wind hit a magic number. It fails because chloride-laced water seeped past the bedding years earlier, trapping corrosion where no one bothered to look. Stainless steel, trusted for its shine, hides stress cracks until a 28-knot gust turns microscopic pits into a clean fracture. Forensic riggers can trace the break line, grain boundaries etched by salt, a jagged edge where metal once bore the rig's load. 8 bolts, half-eaten from the inside, snap in sequence. The rig goes slack. No warning, no drama. The boat isn't lost by the wind. It's lost by a decision to skip a 2-hour inspection, to wait until rust streaks showed on deck. By then, the outcome is mechanical, not meteorological. Right now, most sailing losses in the US trace back to decisions, not weather. The next time you weigh a decision at sea, remember, Every option you keep is insurance. Most boats survive storms until their skippers run out of options. That is the reality no forecast will change.